Welcome to Raging Bullets, episode 596. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sean Whalen, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim Segelin. This is a real special episode for us. We're hitting close to 600 episodes, and we've had some really unique opportunities on the show, but none quite like this. We got to interview Lisa Collins, the founder of the Superhero Project, and the website is superheroprojectkids.org. They're doing some amazing work in this organization to support some very special children facing some true challenges, and how it's all turned into inspiration where we can really learn from these kids from their amazing journeys. I want to save all of that for the interview and get you into it quickly. So I just want to once again, as always, thank our show sponsor, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com, and really quickly jump you right into this very special bonus episode. Jim and I are very excited this episode because we are joined by Lisa Collins and a team from the Superhero Project. Lisa, welcome to Raging Bullets, and can you introduce our guests that are with us today?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having us. We are very excited to be here. First, we have Dasi Stern. She is the Director of Special Education at the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland. More importantly, she is the mom of a fabulous young woman named Nava, also known as the Bold, Brave Beauty Girl, who you'll hear more about. And also with us is Mike Thomas. Mike is the Creative Director of Creative Giant Incorporated. He's a member of the board of directors of the Superhero Project, and he also is one of our artists. He's right now on lucky number 13. He's done 13 characters for us already.
I did not even know that.
You did.
Thanks for having us.
We're glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about the Superhero Project. What is the Superhero Project? For our listeners out there who want to get educated on this, what is the Superhero Project?
The Superhero Project uses creative thinking and the arts to inspire kids with special needs and serious illnesses. We're guided by 4 core values of imagination, inclusion, representation, and joy. We interview kids about who they are, what's important to them, and how they want to make a difference in the world. We also ask them who they would be as a superhero. So what kind of special tools and powers they would need, how they want to look, how they want to get from place to place, all those fun details to really figure out who their superhero alter ego is. Each child is then matched up with a professional and a volunteer artist who designs the character that they describe, creating really a visual representation of their strength, their courage, and their resilience. And the families get the poster as well as a digital copy. And there's this really wonderful connection made between the artists and the families. Although they don't actually meet in person, they've collaborated together on really incredible, powerful, joyful images. And to date, we've connected with almost 700 families across this country, all across Canada, and in about a dozen other countries as well.
That's an amazing number. How did this get started? Like, what was the history of this? I'm fascinated by it. I think it's an amazing project. Where did this come from?
It actually started just as a one-time little project. For 9 years, I was a volunteer cabin counselor and program specialist at Camp Sunrise. For 24 years, Camp Sunrise was the only camp in Ohio for kids impacted by HIV and AIDS. And every summer we had a different theme. And one year the theme was something about finding your inner superhero. So I had this idea that maybe it would be fun if on the first day of camp, we ask each of the kids who they would be as a superhero. And then on the last day of camp, we would surprise them with the characters that they described. I pitched it to the camp director, who said, "Great, you go and do that." So then I had to figure out how to make it happen. So I started reaching out to artists to see if I could do it, because I knew it would be a big deal, because the camp was only a week long, which meant we had to find around 90 artists or so who could all who could all complete the work within a 3 or 4 day period. So I started reaching out to artists, and I got maybe half the way there, and then remembered that my high school homecoming date named Tim Yoon, that he worked in animation out in Los Angeles. So I reached out to him, and he reached out to his network, and we were able to get enough artists to do it. So the last night of camp comes, and we gather all the kids together in the assembly room there at the camp. And I said, hey, do you all remember the first day of camp when we asked you who you would be as superheroes? Well, it turns out you've got friends all over this country, and they have created your superheroes. And everyone was like really amazed. And then when we did it first as a slideshow. So each photo of the kid would come up, and then their superhero would come up. And from the first moment, the room just like erupted into chaos. They were laughing and clapping and cheering. And I would say maybe 80% of the counselors, we all just immediately started weeping at the reaction and just seeing how much it meant to them. And I just realized that I had stumbled into something that was a lot more powerful than I had imagined. I really thought it would just be kind of a fun, silly little thing and a great little memory, because they all got to take home a small, like a 3x5 version of a framed version of their posters. But when we saw how much it meant to them, not only the final images, but the fact that these artists had taken their ideas so seriously and really designed the most amazing posters, I just felt like I didn't want to let it go. And so I took about a year to percolate on it. And then it was in 2017 that I launched the Superhero Project as its own standalone initiative. I started mostly by going to the Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital, which is in Cleveland, working on the pediatric and adolescent oncology and hematology units, going from room to room, talking with the child life specialists, going to other floors occasionally. And very quickly I realized that although I had intended to work with kids with critical illnesses, because you often hear doctors and parents using really the same kind of words that you talk about superheroes with, that these kids are brave and strong and resilient. I realized really quickly that many of the kids, although they may have been inpatient for a critical illness, they were living with lifelong disabilities and other special needs. And so I quickly expanded to kind of include the whole special needs community. As soon as we got our Instagram going and our Facebook going, I started getting requests from other families in other communities. And then I realized, why not do other communities too? And so we started doing interviews through FaceTime and Facebook Messenger and even Zoom. We were like Zooming before Zoom was cool. And so it just sort of skyrocketed from there. I mean, skyrocket perhaps is the wrong word. It grew slowly and steadily from there. Just last year, we incorporated as an official organization, and this spring we received our 501c3 status, so we are now an official nonprofit. So that's where we are. So that's our story.
That's amazing. I grew up being a comic fan my entire life, and one of the things I always was inspired by with superheroes, and I think what the attraction was, I grew up a nerdy kid. I didn't have a lot of friends when I was in elementary school. What superheroes did for me was they gave you this sense of there's something more. You can be a good person. You can do these cool things. It was about character qualities. And you were inspired by these heroes to adopt some of those qualities and to try and better yourself, to be something more. I love that what you're doing with this is getting to know these kids and who they really are and who they see themselves as, and helping them flesh that out into something that, I think every kid's a superhero. And I love the fact that you are making that happen for them. You're helping them to see that, because I think it's hard for kids nowadays to see that. And this is such an amazing, cool idea to do that for kids and to motivate them this way.
Sean, what you said, I'm sorry to interrupt, what you said is so important too, that it's about their qualities and who they are. And that's a really critical part of this initiative, is that as part of the interview, we always ask, What makes you a good friend? What's most important to you? We ask their parents to tell us what they think their child's greatest strengths are, what their best qualities are, what they love most about them. And that's important. And when we talk about the superhero itself, we always start with mission, right? We ask them, how do you want to make the world a better place? What kind of difference do you want to make? And some of them, some of their ideas are silly, some are really poignant. Very, very few of them have missions or goals that are self-directed. They're almost all about other people. Even if they talk about whatever illness it is, whatever issue has sort of brought me into contact with them, it's usually in the context of other kids, helping other kids who have this same thing. And that part of the interview is really important for the parents as well, because a lot of times parents of kids with special needs or illnesses are always they're often asked to explain what's wrong with their kids, right? What the deficiencies are, what their kids can't do. And we really flip that on its head and focus just on the positive and ask us to tell them what they love most about their kids and really celebrate their unique qualities. And that's what's really important and often gets lost in these kids who may be marginalized and excluded often because of their disabilities or their illnesses.
I love that you involve the parents in that, because every child has something to offer. Every child has something special. There's those qualities, and the parents are always, it's their child. They're the first ones to really see it, even when the child doesn't, because for kids, it's hard to kind of get to know yourself and know what those tap into, what those special qualities are. And I love that the parents can be a part of helping the child see that too, as this hero's being developed, this rounded character that really represents who this child really is at their core. I think that's so neat.
It is, and a number of kids that we work with, they're nonverbal, either because they're too young, either because of their disability, they don't speak, or we work with a number of families whose kids have degenerative diseases, so they may no longer speak. And so for those cases, the parents, the siblings, sometimes grandparents, sometimes teachers, we really say whoever knows the kids best and loves them the most, those are the people we want to talk to.
That's fantastic. Mike, as an artist, you had an opportunity to work with kids and actually develop this. What is that perspective like? Like coming at this and actually help create this piece that is going to represent them?
Sure. I mean, as the artist, we don't actually deal directly with the families, because Lisa deals with them, because there's a lot of layers of sort of privacy and,
of course,
not wanting them to be able to share what they want to share and not have too many people involved. So we get these really detailed sort of biographies that Lisa sends to us, and it has all the stuff she was talking about, personality traits and what their siblings have to say about them and what their parents have to say about them. And then, there's more practical things, like a lot of times it'll be a favorite stuffed animal, or in addition to photos of the kids that we get, we'll get photos of their favorite pet or something. And then for older ones, they might tell us who their favorite superheroes are and who they want to look like. They want to look like Batman, or they want to look like Iron Man. And other ones are just, here's a power that I like. I wish I had the power to, fly all around the world so I could cheer people up. Like there's a lot of stuff. What Lisa was saying about how none of their wishes are for themselves, that's one of the things that really blew me away with all the bios that I've read so far. Is almost every single one, when you ask them, what power do you wish you had? It's a power that they want to be able to help other people. Like they never, ever say, I wish I had the power to not have the disease that I have, or I wish I had the power to do this thing that I want to do. It's always, I wish I could help other people, which is incredible. So working from that and working from the photos that we get, I just try to create what I think the picture is they have in their head of themselves as that superhero, and try my best to make sure it looks like them when it's done, but looks heroic and fun and lighthearted. But then the absolute best part is usually 6 weeks later or so, I'll get an email from Lisa with either a note or photos from the family of the kid getting their poster and how happy it makes them. And that's it right there. I mean, the very first one that I did, like, I was so blown away at the family's reaction to it, and they were sharing it on Facebook, and the child was obviously so happy to have it and loved looking at it, and I was just on board for good.
I'm a 24-year educator. I'm in education administration now, but 17 of those years I was a third grade teacher, and I loved every minute of it. But one of the things that was a pure joy of it, and it's the piece that you don't realize is going to happen when you get the opportunity to work with kids. I'm hearing it here, and I'm smiling ear to ear on it. It's the ability to learn from kids and how they view the world and how they view themselves and what they can do for the world and what they want to do for the world. We can learn so much from these kids and how they perceive what they want to contribute and what they can contribute in who they are and in expressing it. That's something that I like to think I'm a better person now because, and shockingly, because of the students I interacted with. And it was a piece when I went into education I did not know was going to be a thing, how much the kids would actually impact me. And when I hear this, I'm like, wow, this is such an incredible way to tap into these kids and to let them have a voice and to put something to paper that allows them to express those qualities in a way that impacts people. And I think that it's really, really special what you're doing.
And one of the other things that's amazing to me when you get the notes from the kids is, especially the younger ones, I mean, their creative ideas are so unrestrained. Like if you go to a teenager or even an adult and say, what superpower do you wish you had? You can guess. They're going to name like one of three. Like everybody has their ideas locked in, but some of these kids, it's like, what superpower do you wish you had? And it's like they want to fly, and they want their dog to be able to fly with them, and they want to spread love around the world and give everybody pizza. Like, it's just, and those are the best things, because now I'm getting started drawing this thing and I've got to work flying, love, the dog, a costume for the dog, and pizza into this. And like, it's so much fun. Like, just these uncontrolled ideas coming out.
Dossie, I'd like to talk to you real quick because you have the unique perspective of coming at this from a parent's perspective and your child becoming a hero through this process. So can you tell us what was that like and how did this process go for you and what was it like for your child?
It was fascinating and eye-opening for me as a mom and incredibly motivating and magical for my daughter. I Superhero Project through a colleague of mine who connected me to Lisa, thinking that this would be something really meaningful to share with some of the families that I serve, and thought that I could, share that information with that network, which I did. But as I was reading the description, I thought to myself, gee, this is actually really perfect for Nava. Nava had low immunity for most of her life, but at 9.5 got diagnosed as having a primary immune deficiency called specific antibody deficiency, SAD. She likes to joke how it's such a pathetic name because it's called SAD. And we knew at that point she was likely going to have to start infusions and treatments for this deficiency. And it was something that sort of went from feeling more mild to feeling really chronic really quickly, all in the middle of a pandemic, which really kind of added some different layers of challenges for our family and for her. This email found its way to my inbox, and I'm reading it, and I thought, this would be something really fun for Nava to do, particularly, she had very much been living COVID life for about 1.5 years at this point. And I thought, anything that's just fun and exciting that will empower her, why not? Let's try it. I reached out to Lisa and I signed her up. And really, to give Lisa credit, she is a master interviewer, because the first line of the experience, she interviewed the two of us together. Nava and I were on Zoom. She's so personable and she's so easy to talk to, but she also asks really impressive questions, and it enabled Nava to express herself in a way that as a mom I had never heard before. And it really was so motivating, even without the picture coming at the other end of it. It was such a motivating and uplifting experience for both of us. And we were in the best mood. We left the conversation feeling really proud. And it was really nice for me as a mom to hear. And I think that, to Lisa's point earlier, as we're all so busy with trying to fix the things that are not right. a child, in our case, it's a medical condition where it's always about the meds and the doctor appointments and the therapies. But to hear how my daughter viewed herself dealing with those kinds of things. And I never really stopped to have that conversation before. And this was a really eye-opening experience for me. And I also, the parts about, she gave Nava an opportunity to think beyond being a kid with a chronic illness. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do in the world? What kind of things are important to you? She's 11. I had never asked her those questions. So, it was a really special, I think it was about a little more than an hour that day, but it was such a special hour. And it was something I really cherished. And then a few weeks later came this package in the mail, and it was magical for Nava to open because it was just amazing to me how Lisa was able to take that conversation and translate it to an artist who really got her vision and depicted every detail of what was important to her, the personality and the excitement. It shined through the picture. It was really, it just was magic. That's the best word I could use to describe it. It was really very special.
I'm so in awe of her. And it's funny, this is my first exposure to her, this conversation. But at 11 years old, a child is able to do something that we struggle with as adults. We have a bad day, and we turn that into a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. We have that trickle effect to it. And kids have this unique way of being able to go through things that are so big and really are issues where you go, okay, I think I had it bad. They've got a struggle, and they find humor in it, and they find ways to think of others, and they find ways to think of themselves and think of the future and find fun in things when we, I think as adults, sometimes struggle to find that balance. And there's something to be learned from a child who's really facing some challenges and how they face them and how strong they are. And it makes them superheroes in that. So I love this project because I really do think there's an incredible synergy to it, because I think it really is what's true about kids, and sometimes we lose it as adults. So there's a messaging here that I think can be taken not just for kids, but for as adults to remind us to learn from this and to learn from the kids.
Yeah. I would love to add just one point that I think to your point is that the energy that came from this process for us continues to impact Nava. She was so motivated by that experience. I mean, the brave, bold beauty girl is her alter ego now. She really, it's on the Instagram page. It's her icon. Her aunts and uncles will call her the triple BG. This is her persona. And she had this really unique opportunity to go to a camp for 2 weeks this summer. She's there now. The camp for kids with chronic illness. It took a lot of work to put that into motion. She took along with her superhero cape and mask for the whole bunk, because this is now something that she sort of sees herself as. And it's really, it went so beyond hanging the picture on the wall. It really was a full encompassing experience that continues to build her up. And it's really special.
Dossie, it's so amazing to hear you talking about that. When we first started this, I sort of hoped it would be meaningful for families and it would be cool for kids, but I really underestimated how powerful the experience is. And something else you said I think is so important, which is this idea that we ask kids how they want to contribute and how they are already contributing. And so often for kids with special needs and kids who are, just who are marginalized in different ways, they start feeling as though they're not contributing or they can't contribute. And it's so important to us to really bring that out of them and help them recognize that every day their spirit, their resilience, their smiles, that they are making a difference in this world.
Major ways. It really, it's like you said earlier, the things that come out of it are sometimes the things you least expected. At least I think I emailed you right after the interview, and I didn't expect it to be such an emotional and uplifting experience for me too. I thought it'd be fun for her, but I didn't expect it to feel so uplifting, and it was special for both of us. And the brave, bold beauty girl is part of the family now. And she she sent the photocopies of the black and white picture for her little cousins to color in their own versions of the Brave, Bold Beauty Girl, and it just was such a powerful experience for her, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
And none of this, let me be clear here. Dusty, you were so lovely talking about my interviewing, and I just feel so honored and privileged to get the chance to meet all these kids and all these families. But none of this could happen without people like Mike, who take these ideas, who take these words and just create the images. And the artists also come from all over the country and all around the world. I think we're at 17 different countries. I just had an email yesterday from an artist in Costa Rica who heard about us and wants to participate, which is fantastic. I give all credit, all props to the artists who open their hearts and just create these fantastic images that are so, so wonderful.
It was so impressive when we opened that package. I couldn't get over the way that the artist was able to really dig into the layers of what Nava was trying to communicate. Like the fact that we never met that artist, we never communicated with. We got a beautiful letter and a beautiful bio that came with the poster that told us a little bit about the artist, but it was like as if he was part of the interview. You would never know that he wasn't there. It was really remarkable.
Jim and Sean, that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up just with your listeners is I know you have a lot of comic fans and creative people on here that if anybody who's an artist is interested in getting involved, they should go to the website and check it out. It's extremely rewarding to be involved with this as an artist.
So let's make sure we talk about that real quick, because we haven't really shouted out the website yet. So Lisa, what is the website? Where should people go? What contact information should they be seeking out to get in touch with you?
Our website is superheroprojectkids.org. And we have a page on there for families where they can send in a form and say, hey, I think my kid would be wonderful at this. And I email them and say, that's great, let's do it. Here's our calendar, pick an interview date, and we'll get started. And the artists, there's a page for artists, and they can basically do the same thing. I ask to see some samples of their art so we can make the best match. We try and I never know what the kids are going to say, but when we have our artists kind of lined up for the week, I take a look at who's on deck and what the kids have asked for and try and find someone who's suitable in terms of style. Mike is he's like an all-star. I can send him anything and he just takes care of it in a beautiful, thoughtful, creative, fun, genius way. We have other artists who come and they'll do 1 or 2 or 3, and then that's it. That's great. We have some artists who do 1 every year, which is wonderful. And then we have a handful of regulars who just keep coming back.
There's some really talented people, but if anybody listening is interested, you do not have to be a professional. You just have to really enjoy doing it. And like I said, you read the bios and you're just inspired to do your best work.
One of the things I've been doing more frequently on the show is reminding people the importance of sharing out links, sharing out information. Not everybody listens to our podcast. So if you're a listener of the show, one of the best ways you can help out too is sharing this link out, letting people know about this site. Because through Twitter, through Instagram, through Facebook, through whatever social media platforms you use, you letting people know, even if it's just 1 or 2 people that didn't know about this before get attached to it, if we're all doing it, we're spreading the word. We're getting the word out and letting people know that this is out there and it's something that they should be paying attention to and participating in if they're able to.
That's absolutely how we've grown as well, both with families and with artists. Sometimes the family will find out about us one way or another, and then they'll participate, and then they have a great experience, and then they'll post about their experience and post the image on a Facebook group that's support group or an affinity group for kids like them. And so then we'll have a whole bunch of kids from one region of the country who are all dealing with one particular diagnosis. And the same thing with the artists, that an artist will do a poster, will post about it on their social media, and then one of their friends will find out about it and say, hey, that seems kind of cool, I'll do that. And then that artist does it and posts about it, and then their friends and colleagues find out about it. And really, we've had just such organic growth that I feel like sometimes social media and technology get a bad rap, deservedly so. But this is what I feel like is the best of social media, right? This is what the aspirational goal of the creators of all of this was, to create community and create connections between people who might not have otherwise met. And that's what this superhero project has done. It's really sort of found special ways to connect people. And we've done collaborations. We had a 3-continent collaboration. My first one, I was so excited. We had a family in the UK, and I was here in the States doing sort of, the logistical work, and then our artist was in Australia. And so that was, that's 3 continents that It was just really cool.
I think there's also some unique ripple effects to that, too. Like, I videotaped Nava opening her superhero envelope when it came, and I posted it on Instagram, and had a friend who reached out and said, I think this would be great for my daughter. And, I connected her, and I had another friend who's a therapist who sent a couple families from her agency. And they came back and they said, oh, wow, look, it came. And now this friend's daughter and Nava, although she's much younger than Nava, it's like they're part of this exclusive superhero club. Like they're connected now to each other because they both had this experience and they both have superhero powers. So it's like it's a cool club to be a part of, and it was really nice to see how that post allowed other kids to have the same experience. It was really nice.
One of the things I want to shout out on the website that I just found that was like super moving, because it's especially when you start realizing as you're reading through the website and find out the various stories, there's galleries, there's exhibits and things where you can go right now and you can see some of these amazing kids and how they've come to life. It's just a pure joy to see their unique personalities, because there's not a one of them that's alike, and which is so true of real life, but just how unique and special these kids are. If you're listening to this, you're making a huge mistake if you don't pop by the site to take a look at the content that's available, because it will make you feel quickly very connected to this project and what it's doing.
You know what I think is really cool too, and if you start poking around the gallery, you'll quickly see that there are a lot of things in the posters that you might not expect. Like you've got bald heads, and you've got NG tubes, like the tubes that are taped to kids' faces. You've got the wheelchairs. You've got all those kinds of stuff. And when we do the interviews, I simply ask, I see that you don't have any hair right now. Do you want your superhero to have hair or not? And there was when I was at the hospital one day, there were 2 young women who I was interviewing together. They were both bald, and one said, absolutely, I want to rock this bald head. Like she wanted this moment in her life to be remembered. And then the second one said, no, I want long, flowing, blonde, curls all the way down to my waist. And so the kids decide. I mean, it's all up to them. Like they decide how they want to be depicted. And we often have, Mike, you've done a few flying wheelchairs, I know.
Yeah.
I think you've done. So, it's one thing to have like a gait trainer or a walker or a wheelchair. That's fine. But to have one that flies with rockets and stars shooting out, and that's something special.
But even though they want them to do special things, usually a photo of the wheelchair comes too, and it says, I want my wheelchair, and make sure you get it right. Like, this is my wheelchair. Like, there's a pride in making sure that this is their wheelchair before we add the rockets and make it fly. Like, that's what's fascinating to me. And other things too, like sometimes there's like some sort of a corrective shoe or something, and they're like, make sure you get my shoes right. These are things that's part of their identity that they're proud of.
Because of their attachment to it, there's a coolness factor for them. You can see how this is an extension of them, a part of them. They're accessories like superheroes all have, right? As you look through the artwork, it's one of the things, it just makes me smile because it looks cool. And it's I can imagine being a kid opening them up and saying, okay, now people get me. I think that is so cool.
What Mike said earlier too is that what they dream about is the younger kids with such creative minds. Nava had a million ideas, and in my head, when she was talking to Lisa, I thought, oh boy, like Lisa's going to probably think she's never had a kid with a laundry list like this. And every detail was depicted. She wanted a laser lipstick, and she wanted she wanted to throw out bracelets to the world to remind them that difference is cool. She had like all these big ideas, and they were all equally important to her.
There are some very long lists. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes the lists are long. But when we hit 500 superheroes, we wanted to measure the impact and try and get a sense of, how the whole initiative was working. And what we heard back from families was really stunning. Many of them reported back that their kids had increased self-esteem, that they were more comfortable with their physicality, with their bodies. There were measurable differences in how these kids were seeing themselves. And the child life specialist, Stephanie Smith at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital, she also talked with me about how really the superheroes can be essentially a tool for caregivers to kind of, they get a glimpse into the mindset of their patients or their kids. There was one young man who we did right near the beginning, a young guy who was in the hospital. He had a blood disorder, and he was a teeny tiny, very slight young man. And he requested a triangle helmet, which was a little bit odd, but I thought, okay, well, let's see what the artist can do. And he wanted to have all different pieces. And the artist, Robert Walland is his name. He's a Cleveland artist. He did an amazing job. And this helmet, it was a triangle, but it worked as a triangle. I don't know how he did it, but it covered his whole face, and the body was like broad shoulders, big broad shoulders, huge barrel chest. I mean, it was like huge. And this guy was so cool, so powerful. And the social worker told me that when he opened the poster up, he said, oh, he looks just like me. And it was like hilarious because, first of all, the helmet covered his face, so there were no facial features. And second of all, I cannot stress how teeny tiny this guy was, and this superhero was big and broad. But what a wonderful insight into how this kid is thinking about himself in this fight. And he was really in a fight for survival, and giving him a visual, an actual image that he can look at and say, this is how strong I am while I'm going through this. That was a gift, not just for him, but for his whole community of doctors and nurses and therapists around him. So they really understood how he's feeling, where he is mentally, and what he wants to do as a participant in his care.
That's amazing.
Well, and I'll say, as the artist, when we're working on these, we have the photos up on our screen, whatever we're working on, you're staring at that face at a really large size for a long time, while you're working on this, because you're trying to make sure that it looks like the kid when you're done. So you have this blown up and you're really just looking at that face for a long time. So, when I'm done, I kind of feel like I've met them, even though I know that I haven't, just because, I've been looking at these eyes and then looking at this nose and looking at the mouth and looking at the ears and, reading their thoughts. And it's, by the time I'm finished, I do feel like I've met the kids. So, that's part of, seeing their reactions when it's all done. That's part of what makes it so great.
I gotta say, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even think I'll accurately express how amazing all of you are. I'm sitting here just we live in a society where so many people are just me, and you guys are reaching out and helping these kids who they're in these amazing fights, and it's I'm sorry, you guys are just absolutely amazing. I'm so honored that you guys are on this show right now, and This is just. Thank you very, very much.
That's so kind. And, I have to say, you're not alone in getting, it sounds like you might be a little bit choked up.
A little bit.
So you're not alone. That's the response that we get. Oftentimes when I ask parents, what do you love most about your child? They get a little bit choked up too, but I always feel like those are happy tears, right? This is a chance for them to really celebrate their child. What you said too about, that the artists who work with us, artists are asked, and any of your listeners who are artists will know this, and Mike certainly knows this, artists are asked to volunteer and do art for free all the time. And they just can't. You just can't. That's your business. That's your livelihood. That's your, that's who you are as a person. But the reason why the artists who do volunteer for us, the reason that they tell us that they do is because of just what Mike said, that one-on-one connection, that they're making a gift for one child who is going to get it. It's not like they're donating something that will be auctioned off or something that's impersonal. It's really that personal connection. And even knowing that, I'm still blown away by the time and the care that these artists spend to really create something magnificent for the kids. And when I get the emails back, with the final one attached, just like you said, Dossie, how it was magical for you, it's magical for me. Every time I get to open up that JPEG and see the image for the first time, I'm always excited. Even after 700, I'm still excited.
It's funny, as we're recording here, and I was thinking of Jim's reaction, and got the website open. So it's the opening page where it scrolls through some of the artwork, and you get to see some of the kids. And as adults, I think one of the things we all struggle with is trying to make a mark, right, and make an impact on people. What I love about this is through their relationship with the artists, the kids are doing that. I mean, these pictures are so moving, and you see in these kids such inspiration in who they are and how they see themselves, and messaging. There's messaging in every one of them that you can tap into because of how unique they are. It really does make me in awe. I can see what it does for the kids as far as allowing them to flesh themselves out in a way that we all dream of. Such a neat thing. SuperheroProjectKids.org is the website. Is there anything else that we haven't shouted out? Any other links? Anything that we haven't mentioned here that we want to make sure to get on the podcast?
One important thing to note is that the Superhero Project doesn't only deal with physical disabilities or developmental disabilities, things like that. We also work with, for example, we work with youth in foster care, knowing that anyone who's been impacted by foster care has experienced trauma, has probably dealt with toxic stress, with depression and anxiety and fear, and mental health is as critically important as physical health. And certainly, as Dossie mentioned earlier, with Nava being so isolated during the pandemic, this pandemic has caused a really huge increase in mental health issues. And it's important to talk about, and it's important for us to support those families as well. That process of visualization, of positive thinking, of looking ahead, and just what you said earlier about recognizing that every individual, no matter their age or abilities, has can make an impact on the world. Giving some of that agency back to kids who may be going through something really difficult is important. So I would encourage families or social workers or any folks who work in organizations or in agencies that help those kids to also reach out to us.
I think one of the great things that you mentioned there was the importance of mental health. I'm 50 now, and when I was a kid growing up, if you talked about mental health, it was a negative thing. I love that now we've taken this shift as a society to start embracing the fact that mental health is something that's about care, it's about support, it's a positive thing. This is something we should be embracing. And I love where we're at now, that this is something that you're hearing conversationally being brought in as something we need to do for the care and betterment. How it really is something that impacts children and adults in so many different ways that I think we were afraid to embrace before, and I love that now I think we're taking a very positive turn as a society when it comes to the conversation around mental health. Not saying that we're where we should be, but I feel like we've made strides, and I love that it's being brought up here as a part of this conversation because I think it's just such a great step forward. I want to thank all of you for joining us on the podcast today. I walked in, obviously, learning a lot from Mike. Thank you for reaching out and making us aware of this so we could get educated. I learned a lot from the website and from the great testimonials that are there, some of the exhibits, the pictures. It's such a cool, rich website. But this conversation, even more so, has just made me really, really excited and proud that we had the opportunity today to have a really strong conversation about the great work that's being done over at Superhero superheroprojectkids.org, and really what the kids are doing for us, spinning out of that work, and the artists and the families that are all working collaboratively together to make this come to life. And honestly, I won't be able to express it as well as Jim did. I just think that this was such a great opportunity, and I thank you all for giving us time today to talk about this.
Thank you. This was really an honor, and I want to give a very special thanks to Dossie and to Mike as well for their ongoing cheerleading and support, and of course to Mike for all of his amazing artwork.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for letting it continue to be meaningful for us. It's amazing. It's been months already, and we're still super proud to be a Superhero Project family, and we continue to reap the benefits of the experience, and we're so grateful. So thanks, and thanks for letting me share that with the world.
Sean, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. This was great. I really appreciate you guys putting this out there, and congrats on 600 episodes.
Thank you, yes. And Mike, so good to be able to talk to you again, buddy. It's been a while, and Nathan, we got to chat with your son briefly at the start of all this. You are friends that obviously I look back fondly, and I'm hoping we'll get to see both of you soon.
Great. All right.
As we wrap up the episode, I want to once again shout out superheroprojectkids.org and remind everyone, please, if you can, make sure to shout this out on social media. Let people know that it's out there. If you can support in some other way, please consider doing that. It's a very cool project and one that we're really proud to shout out. We're running close to 600 episodes now, and to have the opportunity to do a special bonus episode where we get this to our audience and make it a part of our library of episodes was something really special. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to do this. I hope you enjoyed it and found it as informative as we did. I also want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our podcast. We'll be back this weekend with our next episode where we're joined by Freddie E. Williams II to talk about the canceled project, He-Man Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, on a DC-focused show. We will see you then.
Bye!